what's going on, everybody? Joe Menza here, and we're going to do another little painting. And this one is going to be a riverbank type painting. And I want to show you guys how to do sort of some water effects using a little bit of a water bottle and keeping your painting wet. Now, just to start off here, I'm doing 3 full loads like I always do of the Hake. 3 full loads right out of the water pot. Get it nice and wet, and then we're going to go to, I'm using a little yellow ochre here. I'm kind of starting to lean toward yellow ochre over raw sienna. I just think it has a different sort of a yellowing effect. And what I'm doing here is I'm just creating some light by painting in some areas where there's going to be more sky, and I'm leaving a little bit of a central light area. Now that's dry, not dry, but it's still wet. And I'm coming in with some ultramarine blue mixed with just a hint of Chinese white, and just to create some layered light clouds. Some of this you won't see with the trees that'll be in the way, but that's okay. You'll get an idea of it. If you were doing a sky and you didn't want to have a tree blocking, this would be a way you can do layers of different colors. Come in with some darker ultramarine, a little Payne's gray, while it's still wet, and just add a little bit more color. And you'll create various layers of clouds. And again, this has to be done while this is wet, so you've got a couple minutes to work with it. Added just a little alizarin crimson, just a little reddish hue to it. And again, a lot of this will be background. There'll be tree branches in the way. I'm just going to throw a little down here to get a wash going for where we're going to have water. And you'll see what we're going to do with this. Just some quick strokes of the same sky colors. Now, I'm going to add some background shrubbery here. Some little bushes and things. This isn't going to be totally yellow. You're going to see this being layered on top, and this will give us just some yellow in the background, some variety of colors, just to put the brightest colors down first. Now what I'm doing here is I'm giving this a nice spray with the spray bottle, and we're going to let this run. And a little bit of this is trial and error to kind of get it to where you want it for doing water effects. And we're coming in with some ultramarine blue and some cad yellow, lemon yellow. You can use whichever one you like the best, whichever one's warmer. And we're going to work with this while it's wet. It's important that this stays wet. Dabbing this in will create some different layering effects. Again, everything's still pretty wet. We're giving it some more spray with the spray bottle. And we want this to run. I'm going to lift up the board a little just to let it run even more. We're just going to create some streaks horizontally. It's going to be the basis of where our riverbank is going to be. Bringing down some colors that are going to be reflecting in the water. Again with the spray bottle. Spray bottle is a very good tool if you want to keep it wet and have things running. More layering of the shrubbery and bushes in the background. All that will dry and blend together very nicely. Just dabbing in some ultramarine blue, a little bit of Payne's gray. Just a wet and wet layering. going to take a card here and just make some effects of some little branches or some sticks sticking out here. Just because it's fun. Just dab a little color over the top so it's not so stark. And I'm going to start dabbing in a little bit of, on the same brush, with some burnt umber to get a little bit of a shoreline going here. For our riverbank. Slightly darker as we go, just varying it up. Move my clip out of the way here. Stretch the paper just a bit. And I'm just going to start making some little horizontal streaks here. Again, this is a little trial and error, you'll see as you go, but it's important again that this stays wet. We don't want this area to dry. Okay, now I'm going to start putting in some trees toward the back. I'm going to do the tree as much as I can with the hake, with some branches. This is one that I did here. I don't know if you could see. Hold on, finding the right one. I did a similar one a few days ago. I wish I had videoed. And here it is. This was another riverbanky type photo with some more browner trees in the background. That's the one I wanted to do similar for a video. It's fun to do. It's fun to work with the water bottle. I suppose I should video from the left side since I'm right-handed so I don't block too much, so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm just using the hake to make a sort of a tree shape, keeping sort of that chiseled edge if you watch my other video. And now I'm taking a card, and I'm just scraping out, making some nice tree bark. Plastic card cut down to 1/3. And give it a little spray, get the paint moving down because we want a reflection of this tree into the water. A little more spray. And we'll do another tree on this side. Maybe you can see a little bit better. I want these trees not really to go so far off the page so they're not so huge. And there'll be leaves on these, so we don't have to be too concerned with the ends of the branches, but we will use a rigger to put in the smaller branches. Another quick pass with the card just to get some nice tree bark. And just a brush downward stroke to get some reflection toward the water. And another spray with the spray bottle. A lot of this again will dry back because it's been diluted with the water, the spray bottle. And we'll just finish up doing the bank here. Just trying to scratch in a little texture, maybe reflecting from the tree. That may not show up at the end, but that's okay. And some of those little sticks reflecting in the water. Again, just dabbing at the banks, just getting it right. It is fast and loose, but as you go along, you do have to call little audibles and work out what your eye is seeing and what you're wanting to get on the paper. And again, as long as it's wet, you can keep manipulating the paint. Let's go to the rigger brush now. And just put in some little finer branches. This is a number 3 Winsor & Newton rigger, I believe. You can use a number 2. If you want finer branches, you can use a number 2. I like the number 3 because it's just wide enough and it holds enough, it holds a little more paint. You can spend as much time on these as you like if you're having fun. I'd put a few in. Don't have to put every branch in. And when you put the leaves in, a lot of them aren't going to show anyway. You don't have to put any leaves on. I mean, actually, that probably wouldn't have been a totally bad call. Could have left these like this. Some people like the bare branches. And we'll just use the rigger brush to create some sticks next to the tree. Pull those down into the water too, and you'll reflect some sticks into the water too. A little spray just to keep things damp. Again, we're doing a lot of wet and wet. I'm going to use a little bit of a, you know what, I'm going to use the medium hake, and we'll do the thirsty hake just to show you that. We'll do the thirsty hake. Totally, well, it's not totally dry, but it's squeezed out of water. And if you're wet enough, you can create a ripple going through the water, see? And I'll probably widen that as I go, and I'll play with it. Just get in the water and play. That's where the fun is. I like using a little paper towel. Sometimes it creates just a even better swipe across. And doing a little finger painting here. Just to dirty up sections of the water. When you're looking at water, you see different shades. And if you're going for a little realism, you can use your finger. If you want to wear a glove, you don't want to touch the paint, that's okay. These Cotman colors are non-toxic, the Cotman, Winsor & Newton that I use, so I feel okay with doing that. Just darkening those reflections a little bit more with the medium hake. Again, as long as this is wet, we can keep working and manipulating it, and it won't look overworked. Okay, take the paper towel again. Just make sure we're still showing that little nice streak. We want that water to look a little on the blurry side. That's how water looks when you look at it. And you see these streaks now. These things will dry and it'll create a nice shiny effect. Get a little yellow now on the brush, and we've got some stippling effect going on a somewhat dry medium hake, and we're just going to dab in a bunch of leaves, stippling, starting off with the lightest color, the brightest and lightest, the yellow the ends of the brush, just dabbing those in, turning the brush. And we'll come in with some darker colors, maybe a little ultramarine blue, a little Payne's gray, just a little bit darker. First dab is going to be your seeing what you're doing. You can always do it on a practice piece of paper, but I think you can trial and error it a little bit and just dab over the top. Again, just dabbing in where you think there'd be some darker leaves or some shading or shadowing going on. Whatever your eye tells you looks good to you. Just going to dab a little in for color into the water. Just doing a little blending, little housekeeping, as I like to call it. Again, this is still wet from all the spraying, so we can still work with it and manipulate it. A little darker on the tree reflection. Now we're going to make the banks. We're just going to start coming in with some of our darks. And just kind of making that riverbank stand out a little bit more. Quick dry. Again, I'm just doing some shading sort of by eye here. This is something that'll be, again, trial and error. You're doing water, back and forth, see what works, see what doesn't. You got to feel it. A little more with the spray bottle to keep it damp. It's okay if a little bit of it runs. We're playing right in the water. A little multitasking, a little drying and brushwork. Always keep that paper towel handy. You can always work in a little more, take out a little paint. It's fun to watch it evolve into something. I know when I used to watch Bob Ross and I'd be like, oh no, he's ruined the painting. There's a little level of excitement there. And then you say, oh no, that actually turned out pretty good. I don't think I have that sort of confidence, though. I think I might ruin it at times. I think everybody has that, though. A little more stippling of the same colors on the brush while I have it on there. Giving it a good dry now. We're not going to do so much with the... It's pretty much gotten there where I want it for the water. For the most part. We can always come back in and add a little more. You can always spray it a little bit. Now I'm just going to add a little foreground, some foreground grass. Trying to use the bristles of the Hake brush to create a grassy effect. A little burnt umber, a little Payne's gray. And that'll help give the illusion of the water running past us in this river. So it looks like we're standing on this bank looking out over at the other one. A little stippling on the ends will make us look like there's little willow type things or little weed things. Again, I just want to enhance that little reflection there. Sometimes it's really hard to tell how much something is going to dry back and how intense that you want that. And we're taking the wet end of a paper towel and just sort of reactivating that spot where we want our ripple. If you break that up with a ripple, to me it makes it look a little more like realistic water. So it doesn't really look like you're looking at an upside down tree. Okay. Moving right along. Now we're going to come in with our darkest darks and start working on this bank. This is the part that's really going to give it that element of realism. And we're saving the darks for the very end. And once we get those darks layered on top, we can fool around and start making some textures and scratching in some things. Take our little card and just give it a rocky bank sort of shoreline here. Scratching a few blades of grass while that's still wet. That's always fun. A little finger painting. And we've got some nice layers going on. We've got the shrubbery in the background, and it looks like it recedes back, and then we've got our next layer and then our bank. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to add a little reflection of this, otherwise so it's just not the trees there. I'm just going to add a little reflection of that little bit of shrubbery back there. I'm not so worried about it going all the way across. I want to leave some light in there, but just to extend it out so it's more than just those two trees. Just a little bit on that one. We'll extend that ripple through that. Let's come in with a little bit of the hair dryer. Get a little bit of that area dry now. Just trying to scratch into a little more of that stick that's coming down. Now, I've wet it enough times that when I scratched it that time, it actually was breaking up down the paper a little bit. Put a couple of birds in the background while I'm drying. Again, multitasking. Something you got to be careful about. You know, if you do too much work on it, you can start breaking down your paper, but for the most part, it won't be noticed unless you go at it pretty heavy-handedly. Okay. Now that I'm seeing this drying back a little bit more, once again, I'm coming in with some darker darks. Burnt umber, Payne's gray, ultramarine blue. And those will make the tops of those rocks pop up. And if you lose them a little bit, you can just kind of redo the tips. Just get that little shine on the top of the rocks. Okay, I'm taking a toothbrush here and I'm just kind of flicking some water, and I'm going to take a dry paper towel and just kind of dab it and just create some little effects, just a little trickery here. Break up that tree a little bit in the background. This doesn't take too much away from the tree next to it. Notice not everything's reflecting into the water. There's just enough there to make you buy it. And I'm just darkening these blades of grass. You want to feather it in, and you'll get a nice... It'll do all the work for you of the individual blades of grass. Taking a little bit of blue, ultramarine blue, just to create a little bit of a sort of a bush sticking out here in the corner. Scratching it in with some with a card. And again, we'll do a quick dry. Just touching up the bottom of this tree a little bit. It started to fade out from the bottom. You're going to think here now that I'm actually ruining it. But I just want it a little bit darker. You can always go over it again. You can always re-scrape, repaint. go darker over the top if something's not dark enough. And we'll just re-scrape in some of the bark, some realistic tree roots there. You can see tree roots trying to get to the river for water. Okay, we're nearing the end here. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm going to give it a quick sign real quick. I hope you're having fun with your paintings. That's the reason I make these videos, is because I'm sharing with what I do, how I do as I go along, and I hope to bring more people into enjoying watercolor painting. It's very enjoyable, very relaxing. Don't fret about mistakes early on. If you're new to this, look what I've done here. I've got in there and I've played, and just keep it wet. And just work on it and have fun. Just, when you were a kid and you finger painted, you didn't think about if it was, you thought it was probably the greatest work of art. You're going to give it to your mother. She's going to hang it on the refrigerator. And it's going to be the proud, that was the proud spot in the house. Just kind of think back, when you were a kid, and have that sort of kid-like fun. Just using the bristles here to stipple in a little more of that shrub there, make it a little more realistic. And here is our finished painting, zoomed in with a mat on it. We'll zoom in and you can see our nice leaves and our sky in the background, a couple of birds flying around I penned in. And you can see our streaky water there. And really from a distance it'll look pretty convincing. Here it is in a frame. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please subscribe. And also leave a few comments. And if you have time, please take a look at my eBay shop. Thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful day and a wonderful week.